The grand ballroom of the Fairmont Hotel sparkled with silver decorations as 60 members of the Williams family gathered to celebrate my parents' 25th wedding anniversary. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing light across the elegantly dressed guests, while a live orchestra played classics from the 1990s when Mom and Dad first fell in love. The centerpieces featured silver roses and baby's breath, creating the perfect atmosphere for what was supposed to be a celebration of enduring love and family unity. I sat at table 12, strategically positioned near the back where I could observe without drawing unwanted attention. For the past 8 years, I had mastered the art of becoming invisible at Williams family events. While my siblings commanded center stage with their accomplishments and accolades, I remained the family mystery who somehow never quite measured up to our established standards of success. "Ladies and gentlemen," my brother Tyler announced from the podium, his voice carrying across the ballroom with the confidence of someone born to lead. At 34, Tyler embodied everything the Williams family valued: Harvard law graduate, senior partner at the city's most prestigious firm, married to a surgical resident, father to 3 children who already showed signs of following the family tradition of academic excellence. "Tonight we celebrate not just 25 years of marriage, but 25 years of building something extraordinary together," Tyler continued, gesturing toward our parents at the head table. "Dad transformed Williams Construction from a small contracting business into a regional empire that's built half the commercial buildings in our city. Mom created the most successful interior design firm in the state. Together, they've shown us what it means to build lasting success through hard work and traditional values." The crowd applauded enthusiastically. Dad looked distinguished in his custom tuxedo, his silver hair perfectly styled, every inch the successful businessman who had built something lasting from nothing. Mom sat beside him in her designer gown, radiant after 25 years of building both a business empire and a beautiful family. "Our family has always understood that true achievement comes through proven methods," Tyler gestured toward the assembled relatives. "Quality construction, reliable partnerships, building relationships based on trust and delivering results. These principles have sustained Williams Construction through economic downturns and industry changes." I felt the familiar knot forming in my stomach as several family members glanced in my direction. The setup was becoming obvious, and I knew exactly where this anniversary celebration was heading. "Most of our family has embraced these time-tested principles beautifully," Tyler continued. "My sister Amanda just completed her medical residency at Johns Hopkins. Cousin Michael's law practice represents 3 Fortune 500 companies. Cousin Jessica's accounting firm handles the books for half the major businesses in our region." The applause grew more pointed, and I could feel the weight of family expectations beginning to focus on me. At 28, I was the Williams family's great disappointment. The daughter who had rejected multiple offers to join Williams Construction, who had turned down prestigious corporate positions, and who had chosen to pursue what my family generously called that art thing. For 8 years I had maintained an elaborate facade. I lived in a converted studio apartment in the warehouse district, drove a 10-year-old Toyota Camry, and wore vintage clothes from thrift stores. When family asked about work, I spoke vaguely about freelance graphic design and helping small businesses with marketing. They assumed I was barely making rent while pursuing creative projects that would never generate substantial income. The reality was vastly different. I was the founder and CEO of Phoenix Creative Holdings, a multimedia empire that had quietly revolutionized how major corporations approached brand strategy and consumer engagement. We weren't just a design agency, we were the strategic force behind viral marketing campaigns that had generated billions in revenue, the creators of brand identities that had transformed unknown companies into household names, and the architects of digital experiences that had reshaped entire industries. But tonight, like every family gathering for the past 8 years, I was just Nicole the disappointment. However, Tyler's tone shifted, becoming more serious. "There's something we need to address as a family tonight." The conversations around the ballroom began to quiet as Tyler's speech took on the gravity of a family intervention. I could feel 60 pairs of eyes beginning to turn toward my section of the room. "We have a family member who has chosen to reject the proven strategies that built our success," Tyler continued, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to addressing courtrooms. "Someone who has spent 8 years pursuing what can only be described as an extended experiment in artistic expression." My heart sank. Tyler was about to turn Mom and Dad's anniversary celebration into a public trial of my life choices. Nicole Williams, Tyler gestured in my direction, causing heads to turn throughout the ballroom, had every advantage this family could provide. Full scholarship to Northwestern, business degree with honors, guaranteed management position at Williams Construction, and connections to every major business leader in the region. I maintained my practiced composure while internally calculating the quarterly revenue projections for my various business divisions. It had become my meditation technique for surviving these family assessments without revealing the true scope of my professional empire. Instead, Tyler's voice grew more pointed. She chose to abandon proven career paths to pursue what she calls creative consulting. Working out of some converted warehouse space, making flyers and websites for small businesses, generating minimal income while rejecting the security and prestige of established business relationships. Several family members nodded in agreement. Aunt Carol whispered something to her husband that made him shake his head sympathetically. Uncle David raised his wine glass as if acknowledging the sad truth of Tyler's assessment. Dad, who had been listening quietly to Tyler's speech, decided this was his moment to take control of the situation. At 57, Robert Williams had built his reputation on making tough decisions and speaking uncomfortable truths. He had transformed a small contracting business into a $500 million construction empire through determination, strategic thinking, and an unwillingness to accept excuses from anyone, including family members. Tyler is being diplomatic, Dad announced, standing up to command attention from the entire ballroom. But I think this anniversary celebration is the perfect time for some honest family conversation. The ballroom fell completely silent. Even the orchestra seemed to lower their volume as Dad prepared to deliver what I realized was going to be a devastating public evaluation. We're here celebrating 25 years of building something meaningful together, Dad gestured toward Mom, but we can't ignore the elephant in the room. Nicole has been disappointing this family for 8 years, and it's time to face facts. The words hit the room like a physical blow. I could see some family friends looking uncomfortable with the public nature of the confrontation, but most of the Williams relatives were leaning forward, clearly supporting Dad's decision to address my situation directly. 8 years ago, I offered Nicole a guaranteed future, Dad continued, his voice carrying to every corner of the ballroom. Management track at Williams Construction, starting salary of $85,000, full benefits, and the opportunity to learn a business that's been in our family for 3 generations. I sat quietly, knowing that any response would only escalate the situation. Dad was building toward something bigger than just criticism. This felt like a final ultimatum. Instead, she chose to reject everything this family stands for. Dad's voice grew more intense. She chose poverty over prosperity, instability over security, fantasy over reality. She chose to embarrass this family with her failures while the rest of us build something meaningful. The ballroom was completely silent now except for the distant sounds of kitchen staff preparing for the next course. 60 people were watching this intervention unfold, waiting to see how far Dad was willing to take his public assessment. "So I'm done," Dad declared, his voice rising to ensure everyone could hear. "I'm done enabling this behavior. I'm done pretending that Nicole's choices deserve respect or support." He turned to point directly at me, his fingers steady and his expression resolute. "You're cut off forever. No more family financial support, no more connections to help your little projects, no more pretending that what you're doing has any value. Either join the real world and accept the position I'm offering you at Williams Construction, or accept that you're no longer part of this family's future." The shocked family watched in stunned silence as Dad delivered his ultimatum. Everyone was staring at me, waiting to see how I would respond to being publicly disowned by my own father. That's exactly when my phone rang. The ringtone cut through the silence like a blade. In the world of high-stakes business, there are certain calls you never ignore, regardless of timing or social circumstances. The caller ID showed Margaret Stevens, Premier Properties, urgent. "I need to take this," I said quietly, standing up from the table. "Nicole, we're in the middle of a family discussion," Tyler protested. "One moment," I replied and answered the phone. But instead of stepping away for privacy, I remained standing right there in the ballroom. 8 years of public humiliation had finally triggered a decision I'd been postponing. "Ms. Williams," came the crisp, professional voice of Margaret Stevens, one of the city's most respected commercial real estate brokers. I'm calling to confirm the completion of your property acquisition. The mortgage payoff and title transfer for 1247 Maple Ridge Drive has been finalized. You now own the property free and clear. The ballroom went dead silent. I could see the color slowly draining from Dad's face as every word carried clearly in the evening air. Additionally, Margaret continued, I wanted to update you on the commercial portfolio acquisition we discussed. Phoenix Creative Holdings now owns the entire Meridian business complex, including the building that houses Williams Construction's headquarters. All leases and tenant agreements have been transferred to your management company. I remained perfectly calm as if this conversation was the most natural thing in the world. The orchestra had stopped playing entirely, and 60 family members were staring at me in complete shock. Excellent news, Margaret. Has the Wellington Properties merger been finalized? Yes, ma'am. Phoenix Creative Holdings is now the largest commercial property owner in the region. Your real estate portfolio is valued at approximately $847 million, and your total business holdings exceed $2.1 billion. Dad's wine glass slipped from his trembling hands and shattered against the marble floor. The sound seemed to break the spell that had fallen over the ballroom, but the silence that followed was even more profound. Perfect, I continued into the phone. Please remind the accounting team that all Williams Construction lease payments should continue as scheduled. I don't want to disrupt their business operations. Of course, Ms. Williams. One final item. The Forbes interview about Phoenix Creative Holdings has been scheduled for next week. They want to feature your story as their cover article on young entrepreneurs who've revolutionized traditional industries. I ended the call and looked around the ballroom. 60 faces stared back at me in complete bewilderment. The anniversary celebration had transformed into something none of them had ever expected to witness. I'm sorry for the interruption, I said calmly, placing my phone back in my purse. Where were we? Something about being cut off forever. The silence stretched for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Finally, Mom found her voice. Nicole, did that woman just say you own our house? Well, technically I paid off your mortgage 6 months ago when Williams Construction was struggling with cash flow, I replied matter-of-factly. I also own the building that houses your headquarters, along with most of the commercial real estate in this district. Uncle David was staring at me as if I'd materialized from another dimension. Nicole, she mentioned billions of dollars. I nodded. Phoenix Creative Holdings manages a diversified portfolio of creative agencies, production companies, and commercial real estate. We've created marketing campaigns for Apple, Nike, and Tesla. Our viral advertising strategies have generated over $18 billion in client revenue over the past 5 years. The revelation was creating ripples of shocked whispers throughout the ballroom. Family members were pulling out their phones, clearly searching for information about Phoenix Creative Holdings and discovering that everything I'd said was verifiably true. There's something else you should know, I continued, looking directly at Dad. Phoenix Creative Holdings has been the silent partner behind Williams Construction's most successful projects over the past 4 years. Dad's face had gone completely pale. What do you mean? When Williams Construction needed the Preston Mall contract that saved your company during the recession, who do you think designed the marketing campaign that won you that bid? When you needed advanced project management software, who developed those systems? When your biggest competitor was undercutting your prices, who created the branding strategy that justified your premium rates? Tyler was staring at me with growing shock. The Morrison Marketing Solutions contracts were handled by one of our subsidiary companies, I confirmed. We've been helping Williams Construction stay competitive while maintaining your reputation for quality. Your digital presence, your client presentations, your proposal designs, all created by Phoenix Creative Holdings. The weight of these revelations was settling over the family like a heavy blanket. People who had spent 8 years assuming I was struggling to make rent were discovering that I had been supporting their success while building a business empire. But why didn't you tell us? Mom asked, her voice trembling with emotion. Why let us worry about your future? Why let us think you were failing? I looked around the ballroom at the family members who had just witnessed Dad's attempt to disown me. Because every time I tried to explain creative strategy or digital marketing, you dismissed it as making flyers or playing with computers. You had already decided that success only looked one way, your way. I gathered my purse and prepared to leave this anniversary celebration that had become something entirely different. Tomorrow I have a company to run, brands to build, and creative strategies to develop that will shape how companies connect with consumers for years to come. As I walked toward the ballroom exit, Dad called out one final question, his voice barely audible. "Nicole, what happens now?" I turned back with a genuine but sad smile. "Now you know the truth. Williams Construction's lease is paid through next year, and Phoenix Creative Holdings will continue providing marketing support as long as you need it. But I think we all understand that the family dynamics have permanently changed." Walking through the Fairmont Hotel lobby toward my car, I felt 8 years of pretending lift from my shoulders. Tomorrow I would continue building creative campaigns that changed how the world saw brands and products, while running a business empire that proved artistic vision and financial success weren't mutually exclusive. Some cutoffs, it turns out, are just freedom from expectations that were never realistic anyway.